Hey, welcome back to Just 5 Mins. Oh dearie me, it's another weekend ramble, number 2. Because weekend ramble number 1 was back in June, I think, start of June. So just a quick disclaimer, if you're easily bored or got better things to do with your time, please just switch off. I don't know. The event of the internet and everything else, and this is what happens. Just me waffling on about absolute zero stuff. But anyway, it's a weekend ramble. Here we are. Who knows how long it goes? It's certainly not going to be 5 minutes at this rate, is it? Right. So there's a few things really that have cropped up of late, and I think one of them is definitely, and I think we're all affected by this, is obviously just too much information. I wouldn't go as far as calling it FOMO, fear of missing out, although it sort of must be elements of that. But, trying to keep up to date. But the problem is, dare I say, focus, isn't it? It's all down to focus. And ironically, in my day job, I'd like to think so and hope that I'm relatively focused on what I'm doing, because I have to be. And therein lies the key there, isn't it? When you're doing a job, whatever it is, working, contracting, whatever it is, your focus is what you're getting paid for most of the time. Yeah, you've got skill as well, but skill's useless if you aren't focusing on something, isn't it? So, and I do get swayed easily with all this technology, and I think everybody does. And look, I like doing it. I think as much as it feels like it's a bit of a hindrance a lot of the time, there's a lot of breadth of stuff that I like to look at, and sciencey stuff. I mean, crikey, if I start looking at sciencey stuff on YouTube, everything from Star Talk to, I can't remember some of those, PBS Space Time and things like that. I just go down the rabbit hole, and it's great. It's all really interesting stuff. But is it gonna sort of benefit you? Well, maybe not. And your head is just too full, isn't it? And that's, maybe I should use that as a benefit, really. But like I say, there isn't the depth of any of this, obviously. There's a few bits here and there, that I have to do, again, because of my job and whatnot. And I think it's just constantly curious, isn't it? And I think that's not a bad thing. Trying to, put that lens into focus and work on sort of just one thing. Funny enough, I'll come to that in a minute. Is an important thing. So there's a lot of breadth, and what I'm trying to do is, set myself some time where this is going to be inevitable. I'm going to be looking at a swathe of different things that I'm interested in. And hopefully just keep expanding and being curious anyway. Doesn't matter how young, old, where you are in the world or whatever. I think it's just a natural curiosity that a lot of us have, even the people that would say they're not. So, it's usually around technology, but not always. Like I said, a lot of sciencey stuff that I'm interested in and other bits and pieces. But the one thing that I had of late, and I know this is a major thing, and there's loads of stuff about this, about how to get organised, and I'm talking like to-do lists and things like that. Yet it's that old nugget again where, how to get organised. And there's all these things, isn't there? What is it? GTD, getting things done. And look, I keep saying look, don't I? That's very authoritatively, but it take nothing, because I've got no authority at all. But one thing that really jumped out for me was it's so easy to get swayed again, because there's all shiny little bits here and shiny bits there. And I'm talking things like how to even do that. Do you just use a notepad? just use fridge stickers or whatever it is. It doesn't really matter. But I think the key thing that seems to be one of those things to keep. Excuse me, I'm just going to cough and pause. Thank goodness you didn't have to hear that. Is basically picking a tool and sticking with it, because even though you might have a tool that works or doesn't work, or it's all bits that are annoying, you can guarantee all the other tools you'll come across the same sort of thing. So rightly, and no, I'm not really a Microsofty fan, like fan. I use Microsoft most of my work day and all the rest of it, and I'm open to other platforms, definitely. I'm recording this on a Mac. I've got an old laptop that's acting as a Linux machine, because there's loads of different aspects. I think again there's that too much breadth of information, but it's great to see what those ecosystems are. The Mac, for instance, is very good at recording. It's got a really good microphone that I haven't had to pay hundreds of pounds, dollars, whatever for. But yeah, so it's picking a tool, and for a long time I've used OneNote. Because it's free, essentially. Yeah, you're in the Microsoft ecosystem, we know that. But it served me really well, and for a few reasons with OneNote. Is, in the early days, there were problems, I know, and there still are. Like I said, nothing's going to be perfect. But OneNote, for me, was a while ago when I used to go out and about to visit clients for, requirements gathering or things like that. It's great, if you're in one of those sort of situations in a meeting room and you're trying to make notes and talk at the same. I can't look. There's some really clever people that can multitask, and especially in that type of environment, I'm hopeless, absolutely hopeless. So I stumbled across it at the time. There's loads of videos about this now, of course. Is that a little, probably lesser known feature? It's not even hidden. But a lesser known feature in OneNote, and I'm sure there's other apps that will do this. Of course, you've got even built-in recorders in your phone and goodness knows what. But the thing that I liked in OneNote is I used to take this little Jabra conference phone thing. Not a phone, but, it's a USB thing. It's got Bluetooth. Plug it into the computer. That's what I use for my day-to-day work, because especially in summertime, having headphones stuck on your ears all the time is just not fun. So it works quite well. It's a little bit echoey, blah, blah, blah. But anyway, over to the point. So I used to have my laptop, stick this little Jabra thing, USB in. And then in OneNote, as long as I get, the okay from people in the meeting, of course, because you don't want to be recording people secretly. But usually because it's because of the business case that we're talking about, they're usually okay with it. I think I only had one instance where somebody said, "Oh, I'd rather you not," and fair enough, because there could be some, sensitive topics being discussed about their business there, but it's going to be captured in the requirements. So if it is sensitive, well, you leave that out. You can edit it out. But anyway. But most of the time, I could hit record in OneNote. But the great thing was I could interact with the people in the meeting, because most of the time there's more than one person there, of course, when you're doing these requirements gathering. You want to really focus on what they're saying. And the great thing is with the recording in OneNote, I'd have a page open, requirements, blah, 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 company XYZ. And as the recording was happening, when I was typing, I would literally just have bullet points. Okay. So I'd say, oh, this is where they're talking about purchase order management. Okay. And just literally just type that. Interact with them, talk about it, blah, blah, blah. Then they'd move on to something, because we're all guilty of this. We skip between topics all the time. Stock management, warehouse management. Right, okay, let's just type that in, blah, blah, blah. That's where they're that. If you go back to purchase order stuff, type that in. But the great thing is you only have to type a couple of these keywords, okay? And I did it as bullet points. at the end of it, and this is not new. This is not even groundbreaking. And all the AI stuff these days, blimey, you know. But this was a few years ago. And anyway, at the end of that, I had this recording that I could go back over. But even better, if I clicked on those bullet points where I'd started to type, it would jump to that recording. Again, not groundbreaking. You know, you can do this with all sorts of other tools, but the point being is I was using OneNote for everything else. I was capturing, you know, like I always do now. I'm capturing loads of stuff about, oh, that's a good subject or whatever. But even though I don't really use this feature of OneNote too much anymore, because I don't really go out and travel too much these days. Sort of, thank goodness. I mean, I did miss it a little bit, but at the same time, I don't miss a lot of the crazy travel. I'll be honest, but sometimes it's nice to get out and say hello to people. But lots of in this weekend ramble. But that's a really good tool, and the key bit is, even though I've played around with Notion, I think Notion's very good. Obviously, what they've done. It's almost like you've got this whole environment, isn't it, to build databases easy, tables, and then Microsoft have, I think, stolen a little bit with loop components and things like that. Of course, it's inevitable. Everybody's going to be copying everybody. You know, let's just get over that, because that nothing, you know, there's not many people have an original idea, and even if they do, what you're going to do if it's out in the public domain, people are going to go, wow, that's a great idea, I'll do something like it. So just get over that, you know. But anyway, it's all about down to tools. Now, from a to-do list, I tried loads of others, believe me. I've tried, I think, nearly every type of possible one. Okay, and again, this is a few years ago. There's probably lots of really good ones around, but I settled on Todoist, okay, and the reason being it's free. I do pay a small subscription per month, though it's not much. It's a couple of quid, probably $1 or two. But the reason being, again, there's lots of other alternatives now, but it gave me essentially a platform. On every platform I could use Todoist. So on my phone, on my laptop, on my Mac or wherever, you've got the same synchronized to-do list. Okay, and the great thing is it's got like offline caching, so if you haven't got, you know, internet access or something at the time, you know, off it goes. And again, none of this is sponsored, by the way. This is just me. There are lots of other options, and I guess what I mean, I would like is OneNote, and I know you could probably do this, but the thing with Todoist is it lets me have projects, okay, to manage stuff. I tend to find that if I start using it for even my own stuff, like projects, it gets a little bit cluttered, okay, and I ended up, and this is where it's the bridge across OneNote or something similar to like a proper to-do list, is I ended up getting a bit of a merging, and I ended up tagging stuff like, so I basically ended up using Todoist as like a bookmarking engine. Look, it was great, but it's not really built for that, you know, and I ended up with so much stuff. And it's relatively easy to find, don't get me wrong, but I just culled loads of stuff, and I consciously said, okay, I'd been using Pocket bookmarking, you know, from your browser for years. Nothing wrong with Pocket, by the way. I really liked it, but I don't know, I think there was a few things that started to maybe go a little bit awry for me personally, and I came across Raindrop.io, which is a bookmarking engine, you know, usual thing, sits in your browser, but it is a desktop app on different platforms as well, you know, not just Windows. So, and obviously on your phone, so you can share to that, you know, when you're browsing or from another application, all those sorts of things. And then I realized, look, if I'm curating stuff that I want to, you know, let's face it, I think I've got my bookmarking Raindrop organised now pretty well. Not too granular. I've got a set of tags that I culled down because there's too many, you can't find anything. But the thing I like about Raindrop as well is that it serves things up quite nicely. Again, it's got a nice interface, it's got nice iconography and stuff like that, so I can jump around and find stuff quite easily. And it's really quite a nice feature. And on those, and I have to be very careful because I end up getting, carried away with reminders, but if there is something I really, really want to remember to read at the weekend, in Pocket, I don't know at the time, maybe now you can, but you couldn't do things like that. And it was really hard because you just end up with this big silo of bookmarks that you never really come back to. And I always find that with AI and stuff now, surely there's a really good way that you're sort of prompting, maybe here's a little app coming, prompting something, saying, I'm in the mood for looking about this, and it could go and scan that and make some recommendations, pull out old bookmarks for you that could be of use. Obviously with technology, things can go stale and out of date, we know that, but Raindrop definitely allows me to have that. But what I try to consciously do is not use Todoist for capturing that type of stuff. Is sure, I've got my own personal things, remember appointments and this, that and the other, so I'm sort of using it a bit like a calendar, and it does have like calendar integration anyway, by the way, Todoist. So it hooks up to my Google Calendar, which I've also got my Amazon Echo devices hooked up on that, so it'll pop up and tell me, don't be silly, remember to take these pills or do that or whatever it's going to be. But Todoist, I misused it for a long time. I had too much going on. So I've really shrunk that down and got rid of a lot of sections. And I don't know, there is a feeling like, oh, should I get rid of all of this? And it's stupid. Like most of this stuff you're not going to come back to. But that's where I've now tried to do, like I say, with Raindrop, that is a bookmarking, that is all to do with articles and all different things that I'm looking at. And of course, the key thing is I can then add, if I wanted to, I could add a Todoist reminder on a Saturday morning at whatever time, remember to go and check XYZ from there. And that's it. Just one Todoist item and off you go. So I think, again, even though I have jumped from Pocket for the bookmarking, and again, nothing wrong with it, maybe I'll revisit it at some stage, but I just found that Raindrop was it suited my style a bit better, because it's all about personal styles, isn't it? And same thing for OneNote. I mean, I am using Microsoft Loop a little bit, and there are some advantages, and I think if you've got a pro version of Office 365, you do get the ability to interact with Loop in OneNote, but in the personal version you don't currently. Okay, I think that would be nice, because Loop's got some, there are Loop components you can share in different places, and it's got, dare I say, a more up-to-date interface on how you can interact with Loop. But again, I've got to be careful because I don't want things all over the joint. And I like OneNote because I've got it everywhere. Again, it's all synced. Whether you trust the evil empire or not, I get that. You've got to take whatever you want to take yourself. But I like the fact that I've got that information wherever I'm working, on my mobile, on a tablet, on a machine. So I think, even though at one point I was going to really go full on into things like Notion and stuff like that, what I found, and I'm lucky enough, I've got a Surface tablet, a Microsoft Surface. It doesn't matter, you can have any tablet you like, but basically with a pen. By the way, it's not a Surface Pro. It's one of the little basic Surface tablet things, but it has got a little pen, which I like. So occasionally, I do like to, well, I dare say write. A bit like the Kindle Scribe, but obviously you're just writing on glass, which is a bit weird. the Kindle Scribe, actually, just for reference, feels really nice. It feels like you're writing on paper. But anyway, to the point, OneNote allows me to have the ink capability, you know. So if I want to just doodle, draw, get little diagrams or something, ideally, you know, that's quite useful for integrating in Teams as well. But that's another story. But that's what I mean. Even things like Obsidian, which is a relatively newcomer for the note-taking universe, and there's all those other knowledge base. I can't remember. Is it Locksec? I think that Tim, my good buddy, sort of mentioned. I should really revisit that as well. But again, it's all back to a lot of these other, to the best of my knowledge at the moment, is Obsidian looks really good. It's got like graph linking and all this sort of clever stuff. Notion is just an immense beast of things, isn't it, what you can do. But I don't know about the inking capability. And I quite like that. And OneNote gives me all of that and that recording facility, as I mentioned. So, you know, it's all good. It's all good. But anyway, they're the points of Ramble. Crikey, is it really 20 minutes? I don't know. Somebody shoot me. Stop me from recording, please. But that's the Ramble, and I think ultimately it comes down to just sticking with a tool that works for you. And I'm saying that for myself because it's so easy to get caught up with all the shiny new things. But anyway, I think there's a lot of improvements in a lot of areas for sure. But, you know, there are three things that I tend to use. Like I say, bookmarking for proper bookmarking. Todoist for when I really need a list of to-do items that I can actually either remind myself or tick off or whatever. And OneNote, you know, regardless, it's a bit clunky in places and all the rest of it. But it does the job. And it does the job on all the different devices quite well. And the search capability is quite good as well. I think, no doubt, I'm sure, I think they already have, haven't they, integrated Copilot in there. But that'll be the next thing, of course. So anyway, but that's a weekend ramble number 2. If you made it this far, seriously, you should get a medal. And funny enough, I did actually mention during the start is just one thing. And even though I'm doing this podcast, and I'm definitely trying to finally get some videos together of some stuff I'm looking at as well. I don't know why I've had a mental block on that area. But I'm also seriously thinking of using, I don't know, maybe it's a Patreon thing, because, you know, I'd like to do a bit of a side hustle, you know, getting a bit older now, you know, getting a little bit of extra income would be nice. And I'm thinking of doing something like just one thing where, you know, to provide some value, but not, you know, not charge stupid amounts of money, and it has to be something of value, of course. So, but I was thinking just one thing, which is quite, you know, an antidote to all of this, where there's just so much, something that you can just focus in on. And so that's something buzzing around in my head at the moment as well. But we'll see. There's so much to focus on. So there we go. That's the end of the ramble for number 2. Maybe it'll be the final one. Who knows? Who knows? Unless someone can stop me from recording. So anyway, take care until the next one, and we will catch you then.